How do you reckon you'd feel if you won a silver medal at the Olympics? Pretty good, right? Well, Scotty James, the Aussie snowboarder, just made history at the Winter Games in Italy. He won his third medal in 5 Olympics. It was a silver, but standing on the podium, he looked pretty unhappy. In fact, pretty devastated with the outcome. And the most fascinating part is that he might have actually won gold if it wasn't for a decision that he made in the final to go riskier, to go bigger in the attempt to beat his opponents. And in the end, he crashed out and his numbers weren't enough to get there for that top position on the podium. And almost immediately afterwards, Scotty said something pretty surprising to me. He's going to go again for his 6th Olympics in 4 years' time because he wants gold so badly. So today we're unpacking that moment to find out what it tells us about elite athletes and the mindset that it takes to keep chasing something that might just always be that little bit out of reach.
And now it's time.
It's time!
It's time for
Moneyball.
Moneyball.
Are you familiar with the story of Moneyball?
Hey team, welcome to Moneyball, the business of sport, where we take a look at the game plan behind every big play. And Scotty James isn't just your average athlete. He is an elite half-pipe snowboarder. And this year in Italy was his 5th Olympics, going all the way back to 2010 when he first went to the Olympics at just 15 years of age. And now at 31, he's won 3 Olympic medals, a bronze and 2 silvers, but no gold. And coming into Milano Cortina, he was right in the mix, but the sport has changed over that time. The level in the snowboard halfpipe right now is probably the highest it's ever been, and he's had competition from 2 really incredible Japanese halfpipe boarders who are pushing the technical limits of the sport to the extreme. And so in the final, Scotty lands a huge run. He's right there. And then it comes down to the last run, and he can either play it safe, clean it up and maybe win gold, or go big and attempt a more difficult trick. Now, he chooses to go bigger, to take that risk, to really push the boat out, and he fell. And that's probably the difference between silver and gold. And then not long after on the podium, he's emotional, he's feeling flat. And then he says, I'll be back in 4 years. So that is a moment that I want to unpack today. Jacqui Louder is in exercise and sport clubs like Collingwood in the AFL, AFLW and in Super Netball, and the Melbourne Storm, where they've really been the gold standard for high performance for 20 years under coach Craig Bellamy. So she's seen firsthand what pressure looks like, but also what success can look like too. Jacqui, welcome to the show. When you watch Scotty James on that podium, and, you see that look of bewilderment and despair. What stands out to you as a psychologist in that moment?
He's elite. Like, you can see the difference between those elite athletes, that this is personal for them. This is them ticking their boxes and their journey and things that matter to them. So for someone not that he wasn't happy in terms of, I know I've had put in a good performance and I'm a good sport and whatever, but that has not met his need. And you can't walk away from something when you're an elite performer and know that there was something else left in the tank.
Look, we'll get to that. I mean,
unfinished.
the really interesting thing I think here is the difference between expectation and outcome, right? And his expectation of himself is so high. He's an incredible athlete and he's one of the best in the world. There's no doubt about that. But from looking at it from the outside, as a lay person, as a fan, a silver medal at the Olympics looks incredible. Why do you think that can feel like a failure to an elite athlete?
I think it's actually about the performance side of it. Like, he knows that second last run was not his best, and he knows where the room for improvement is. And that's, I think, where you get the difference between the real elite and the very good athletes. And that's just how they're wired. It's how they're built, and it's got to be their journey. So you're a long time retired, and to be able to walk away feeling like something never got done properly, you can't take that away from someone who's very elite at what they do. I don't care whether they're an athlete, whether they're a business person, whether it's someone taking pride in just completing an exam or, some form of study. If it's important to you as a human being, your own expectations go with you for the rest of your life. It doesn't matter what the media say or the rest of us. And they, in their common sense brain, know The silver medal's amazing, but he's not living with a common sense brain for the rest of his life. He's living with his brain and his expectations and achievement. And I love
Do
seeing
elite
those
athletes
those
like that
athletes.
need a gold or nothing mindset to even get to that level in the first place, to be one of the very best?
My experience over 25 years is there is probably 5%, I think, that are elite. Every box gets ticked. Everything that they could possibly do gets done. They are curious. They go and find the best people. If they're in, if they're in a footy club or a netball club or a hockey club or a soccer club or an independent athlete, and someone's put in front of them that they don't think is the best, they'll go and get someone better. They'll pay the money, they'll put the time in. It's about what can I live with at the end and how do I be better? And that constant thirst for learning and getting better, it's incredible to be around. But they also are surrounded by everybody else who goes, yep, as soon as he said, I'm going to go again, I'll guarantee you the elite people in his team
Yeah.
would be like, okay, let's do it.
Yeah. Let's go to that moment though in Milan. He had the option to go safer with that particular run you mentioned to potentially win gold, and instead he chose to do something that was tougher, to really push the boat out and compete against those other two Japanese board riders. How do you reckon athletes make a decision in that moment? Do you think it is calculated or is it instinctive? Is it something that he would have decided or that he would have done based on instinct rather than something that he would have thought, well, I'm specifically deciding to do this because this is what I think it's going to take to win?
Yeah, I think the second one, I think they obviously have plan A, B, and C. They know their strategies, but all of the best performers across any sport in history, and you'll see it from your Kobe Bryants to our best AFL players or our best cyclists or whatever it is. They do the things that everyone else is not doing. They know and they take the risks that no one else is prepared to take. And that's what makes them so good. And he knew that he had that in him and he had to put it all on. If you're not going to put it on the line at the Olympics, when are you going to put it on the line? And I think that's the difference is everyone else goes, why didn't you play it safe? Whereas he went, how do I get the best out of myself? And what's it going to take?
And what about processing a loss like that? Because it clearly is a loss. It's his expectation and outcome didn't match up, and he felt like it was a loss. And you saw it, and he said it. He was devastated. He said, "I'll probably have a cry in the next 24 hours, but I'm proud." What should that immediate period, the team around him, what are the sorts of things that they should be saying? How do they help him cope, and what does he need to do to move through that period?
I think the fact that he was so vulnerable and so honest that the team around him, you've got to allow them to sit in the grief. And it is a grief for them. It's a loss. Loss is determined by the person experiencing it. And it's not for anybody else they don't need to make him feel better. They need to let him have whatever experience he needs to have, not try and make it better for him. That's not their jobs. Like, I'm happy to let an athlete sit in it for as long as they need to sit in it. If it becomes an unhealthy time frame, then you say, hey, we need to work through this or talk about this more. But I was more than comfortable as somebody watching to go, okay, he's vulnerable, he's honest, he's very rational. He said, I go home and my kid doesn't care and all that. So he showed the humanistic side of him and he showed the real elite athlete side of him. And there's a really nice balance there. So he's going to be fine. I don't know him from a bar of soap, but he's very impressive in the way he had that vulnerability and also was able to show just the human side of him.
He seems highly intelligent. You see that in the way that he speaks, in the way that he performs, and obviously to have been to 5 Olympics, dummy, right? So you're going to know what you're doing. But there's no doubt there'd be a lot of mental games and a lot of challenges to work through. One of them that I think is probably top of mind for him right now is just how quickly the sport is progressing. And you're probably seeing this in your work in the AFL, the netball, rugby league. Elite performance is getting better and better and
Everything.
better. And I'd love to hear your take on that. Scotty talked about how the tricks are getting harder each year. He said after the event that he was hoping that the pace of progression might slow down a little bit, and he knew that it wasn't, and that I think that's why he took the decision he did, because he knew that he had to really push the boat out against these other athletes who are getting so good so quickly. What does that do to an athlete psychologically when good enough keeps changing?
Yeah, I think, we expect that, we know that. I think it's now going back and going, okay, it's about working smarter, not necessarily harder, because I don't think he can work harder. But because he's so experienced, he'll go through his processes going, can I use a little bit more of this and a little less of that? Like, where is the progression? And if he's got the right people around him, like I look at myself in my area going, how do I stay in front of every other psych? What is out there? How do I go to the next level? Athletes, elite athletes, really surround themselves with people who are like them. We do it in our profession. They do it through their bodies and the way they carry out. But they can't do my job. They can't do the dietitian's job going, right, what's next level in terms of how we manage and measure every single component of what's going in and the energy we're burning and all of that. And it's making that team work together. And I would imagine he now sits down with all of those people and you have a really good debrief and planning and have a look at it and go, right, where is this? AI
Incredible.
comes into it as well, going, can we get a little bit more information from these things? And it's who is prepared to find the 1%. And that's what it is. The human body, they can recover quicker. We're seeing so many recovery things now where, where can we go the next level and who's not in my team that I need in my team to be able to take me there. So, that could be a six-month process. That first year after an Olympics is really important to take a breath, let yourself recover, and really put your time and effort into elite planning before you then go again. And he obviously thinks he's got it in him because he's put it out there. So he's going to be accountable for what he said, but he obviously knows he has, because you don't make that
Yeah.
statement if you think you can't do it again. And that's what I
Came
love about
in
it.
young, 15 at his first Olympics. He'll be 35 at his sixth Olympics. But there are a lot of professional sports people now that are going well into their 30s. You see it in cycling. You're seeing it in the NRL, the AFL. There are men and women now competing much, much longer into their careers. How are athletes getting better and better and better, in your opinion?
It amazes me still, even from a psych perspective, how many athletes do not tap in anywhere near what they could be doing in the psychological space. And even if they have a psych, not necessarily taking that to the next level. I don't think it's particularly different when you've got an elite athlete, they're elite, and they will make it work whether they're in an individual or a team. I think the effort required in an individual sport is so much harder because they have to go and source everything themselves. These days in an AFL club, an NRL club, netball club, all of those team sports, you walk in and your medical team is there. Now, they may not be the best people in their industry, and sometimes you will get athletes that will go outside what the club provides because they want better. And I think that's a sign that they're elite. But I think for an individual athlete, their journey is so self-driven to another level because they have to do it all themselves and source it themselves. And we all know that the funding that goes into a lot of these Olympic sports is nowhere near what's needed. It comes in the last 12 months. Well, they've done the hard yards. By then, those last 12 months are the final qualifying, and that they haven't got to that because now they've got funding. They've got to that without the funding.
Yeah, that's right. And look, Scotty's one of those athletes who is very well known. He's got a great following on social media and he's supported by a number of brands. So I guess that puts him in a pretty good position financially, knowing that he can push on to the next Olympics. What do you reckon, though, the next sort of 4 years might look like for him? He's been there 5 times before. He knows what it takes. But do you reckon this one maybe could be the hardest?
I think it's going to be the hardest. If he can, like any athlete in this position, I think he's got to be really smart, which I'm sure he is, it is not about undoing what's already been done. It's about building on what's been done. You can't live in the past. You can't keep your head back there and your butt in today. So I think this has got to be its own new journey. Learn from what's happened, but there's got to be a freshness about this, because if you try and just repeat and then I just got to tweak tiny bits, it's a new ball game now. A new Olympiad is completely different to the old one. The scheduling, his body, his family, all of that. So I think if he can approach it really fresh and excited and put new things in to keep it fresh, that's the way he's got to be able to do it. He knows his sport. He knows that he can take it to another level. But how do I do that for 4 years and maintain my freshness. I think that's got to be
And you
in the
reckon that's the
approach and
sort of thing
taking
that
it
he'd
as a
be
new
talking
journey.
to his team, but also a psych or a mental fitness coach?
Yep.
Because that's not necessarily something that you can do yourself, right? You probably need some coaching around that to help put yourself on the right path to getting in that direction.
Yeah, I mean, if I was an athlete these days and I'm in his position, I'm sitting down with each of my key people and saying, put it on us. If we want to be an elite sport, and I'm going to be the best at what I'm going to do, I am more than happy for an athlete to say to me, Jacqui, tell me what you're going to do for me that is better than everybody else. What are you going to do to help me go to the next level? And you're
Yeah.
re-interviewing all the people around you. And if we can't come up with something new, then they might have to go, well, I'm just going to put the feelers out there and see who else is right for me. Elite needs to be surrounded by elite. And that's doesn't matter what you're doing. So that in itself would be once he's done his recovery and had his breath and whatever, that should be in his planning phase. As in any athlete who actually went to the games and is going to go again, like take it up a notch. And if
Yeah, I
people
guess you
can
don't really
come
think
with you,
about
then they're the
that
ones you want
athletes
with you.
might do like a performance review, an annual review, a post-Olympics review. You hear about it with football
100%.
teams that fail and maybe sack a coach, and then they do a review of their football department or whatever, and you kind of expect that because we hear about that. But I could see the sense in doing that, especially as an individual athlete. You're primarily working on your own a lot of the time, so you want to have the right people around you. And I guess it does make sense to test that every now and then to make sure that those people are still contributing to you as an athlete as you move forward to the next Olympiad. More of a philosophical question for you to finish up. Do you think athletes ever really feel satisfied? We talk about, we see footballers, season to season, individual athletes, at the Olympics, these 2 and 4 year cycles. Do you think they do feel satisfied, or is the thing that makes them so great is the fact that they're always chasing something?
I think it's a little bit of both. I think they absolutely can be proud of what they've done and satisfied that they have got everything out of the body that they've been given, the brain that they've been given. I think, yes, you can do it, but that doesn't mean
Yep.
they're happy about not being able to do it anymore because their personality hasn't changed. And so you're elite as a person. Whatever they do next, they'll still create the same methods. They'll still want to be the best. If they're going to move into being an engineer, they'll want to be the best engineer. If they're going to move into media, they're going to want to be really thorough with that, or into coaching, they'll be an amazing coach because they want to get better. I think the key to high performance is the ongoing preparedness to learn and keep finding the next 1% where you can push. And that's why we get into this as well. It's exciting and it's very addictive. But they can finish satisfied,
Yeah.
but also
Well,
sad.
we've seen Kelly Slater do it in surfing for a long time. Tony Hawk skateboarded, looking like a teenager
absolutely.
for well into his 40s and early 50s. Maybe we'll see Scotty James at his 7th Olympiad
Yep.
as a 39-year-old, having got that gold medal in his back pocket. And the next time around, and he's still doing it
Let's hope
for the
so.
fun of it when that time comes. Jacqui, thank you so much for your insights and to talk to us about
No problem.
an amazing Australian athlete. Thanks so much.
Moneyball.
Wow, that insight into what it takes to be elite and how few athletes actually could claim to be elite is really incredible. And, it shows us that elite sport isn't just about winning, it's about the expectations that elite athletes set for themselves. And in this case with Scotty James, his expectations weren't met with the outcome. The silver medal, for us mere mortals, amazing, incredible. And we're also proud of him as Aussies, but it obviously felt very different for him. And it's that tension between what you want and what you got in the end that keeps elite athletes really pitching ahead, trying to be better and striving for more and more because Scotty, in this case, believes that there's something better out there. If you enjoyed this episode, please follow the show on YouTube, and you can listen, of course, wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Instagram at Moneyball_show. And if you've got any questions about me or about the show, or if there's anything you'd like me to have a look at, you can email me anytime. It's askmoneyball.show@gmail.com. And yeah, love to hear from you. Thanks for listening and for watching today. This is Moneyball, giving you the game plan behind every big play. And until next time, follow the money.
Moneyball.